But what else? What else? And I was rescued from my sense of hopelessness in being able to portray this to you until I turned to Rosemary's obituary. How many times have you attended a memorial service where the person who is gone comes back because she had written her own obituary for this moment as well as others? I'm not going to read all of it, but a lot of it, because if you haven't read it, and if you have, it's so appropriate. I will miss walking on the soft earth of summer, being immersed in cool waters. The sweet smell of pine trees, my gardens bursting with daisies, seeing my 5 beautiful babies and feeling the warm embrace of my loving husband. I am love and laughter and light. Red is my favorite color. Chocolate is my favorite food. I am genuine, kind, and I love wholeheartedly. If you know me well, you know I am Irish and mischievous. It comes through in that picture, doesn't it? I was born to Alice and John Finley on April 23, 1934 in Janesville, Wisconsin, and I'm the youngest of 4 children. I am strong, an independent woman with a deep faith in the Woman's Mark. Many months ago, her placard, her sign was, I am a Christian feminist. She checked all the boxes. I believe in heaven, God and Jesus. I believe equally in angels, gnomes, and fairies, and magic found in nature, from wide oceans to quiet forests. This is where I found my peace. When I met Mother Teresa, she became my weather vane. She pointed me to a Christianity that believes in an equality for all people. And I taught my children the best way to change the world is to be the change. I never met a stranger, and I loved listening to their stories and giving hope when needed. My life's mission was to serve others, from working with disabled children to teaching babies to swim to transitioning Catholic nuns into retirement. I loved music and the arts and people I met while doing embroidery, knitting, and weaving. I think one of Rosemary's subtle and hidden agendas in coming to church was to be with people. She loved people. Emil tells they would go to a party, a social gathering of some kind, and they would leave, and he would talk about the food or whatever and this and that, and she would say, I met 2 new friends. How about you, Emil? Most of us guys rely on our wives to help us in that category. I traveled the world, but my favorite place has always been in my home, surrounded by family. And I send eternal love to my husband, Emil Sonny, of 64 years. Whew. My 5 children, Mary, Sue, Tom, lost my place in line. Tom, thank you. Karen and Jane and their spouses. 12 grandchildren, 8 grandchildren. And my dog, Lucy, our dog, Lucy, the dog daughter. I lived, I loved, I soared. So we can read about her spirit in her own words, but that's not quite enough. We can also picture her spirit in what she has left behind. She came home to Emil one day and said, I bought a piece of art. And I'm sure his first question was, how much was it cost? He did not mention that. He did not say that was his first question. He said, oh, what is it? Let me see it. And she said, it's me. This is me. It'll be at the reception. This is me. Can't you see me here? joy and whimsy and color and surprises and vivaciousness and whatever. I'll put it back as part of the display. That's where I found it. And then there's a piece of art on the wall in their basement. It's here now. This also is her. I hope you can see the figure, and I'll read the words to you. It shows another clownish character. Looks quite a bit like a joker, a jester. I think, though, it's maybe a female jester. I'm not sure because of the inscription in it. Flying a kite full of color and fun and whimsy and frivolity, but here are the words. I asked her why she never told us about the 10 Commandments. And she said she wasn't ever that good with numbers. So she loved everything as best she could. And I remember thinking, who needs all those rules anyway with a mother like her around? Spirit. She got the spirit of the words. She got the spirit of the word that we read from, hoping to discover the living word. She understood there is a spirit behind those words. There is a spirit behind those guidelines. And that's where she lived. We can experience her spirit as we get to know her family. Just discussing just a couple of minutes here, the history of the women of this family. Going back, and we'll continue on. Her spirit will be passed on through the members of her family. Her family spirit began with Alice and John Finley on that Irish farming community in Wisconsin, the youngest of 4. And then that family began to burn like a fiery bush when she met Emil. And they were ready to get married, I think, much sooner than they did get married. But her dad, who had died when she was about 8 years old, in that community in those days, the surviving uncle then kind of becomes the patriarch. And he had declared that Rosemary must not get married until she's 20 years old. Now, I don't know how long that meant they had to wait. Probably seemed like an eternity to you, Emil. And the day after she turned 20, she had this huge party. Most people call it a wedding reception. And for 64 years, that fire burned and spread to the 5 children, Mary, Sue, Tom, Karen, and Joyce. Eventually, their spouses and their children and their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And Emil, you have testified over and over again through the long years of our relationship, and especially in these last months, these years of testing, in the health struggles that Rosemary faced. Her irrepressible spirit that helped you build family for the future as you moved from Alaska to Livonia and a place in Harbor Springs and Florida and England and finally Saugatuck Douglas, and maybe I've overlooked a couple. But with all of the changes of your life, you too were building a spirit of love into the lives of the kids and their kids that God blessed you with. And the focus of that to me, as you told me about it, was that 30-some years that you lived in Livonia. In that sort of Leave It to Beaver community that you found yourself among there, like other young families all around you. Please, God, don't let that be my phone. No, it's not. It happened once at a moment like this, but only once. It's on silence, but in case I didn't have them, I needed the words to that picture, and so I had my phone with me. That Leave It to Beaver community where several young families melded together over the years, and there were packs of kids running everywhere, and it was always more interesting to be in the house of one of your friends than your own house, and so there was this kind of smorgasbord of itinerant kids moving all around throughout that neighborhood. That must have been an amazing, safe, and adventurous and exciting place to live that you and Rosemary prepared for your children. One vignette from that, there was a guy, a husband, a father in the community who had 9, did I say Irish Catholic? 9 children. 9 children. And every year was at Christmas time, they'd take the family picture and it'd be all the kids and the mom and dad, everybody. But he would always smuggle in a 10th kid. A ringer. A sub.